everyone. Welcome to Everyday Living Podcast. I'm your host, Jason, along with my lovely wife.
Hi, this is Holly.
Co-host, Holly. So we're just going to jump right into this today. Homeschool. That is the topic of the conversation tonight. We're in our living room, just in case you hear a dog or a random kid come down the steps. We'll be entertaining them if they do, and maybe we'll let them speak into this conversation. Thoughts on that, wife?
Yeah, we should interview them soon with something like this.
I know some of you would love that. So, a lot of people, again, just referencing the video vlog, have asked us questions concerning homeschool, why we homeschool, benefits of homeschool, can you talk on homeschool? And, if I'm honest, it's not my expertise. I am the principal of our homeschool academy. See, I don't even know what it's called. What is this called, our homeschool school?
Okay, well, technically speaking, in California, we homeschool as a private school. So we are our own very small private school. We fill out a private school affidavit online. That's how we homeschool. There's a lot of different ways people homeschool, like under umbrella things or charter schools even. But, so Jason's the principal of our homeschool. I'm the primary teacher. Obviously, that's what we fill out on the affidavit, which is true. And the name of our school is called Creative Life Academy.
Creative Life Academy. See, I knew that. If I had a multiple choice, which I always excelled in school because I could get it down to 2, and I was pretty good at taking tests. But, that's just a little of me. Why did we settle on that name? Can you jog the memory?
Well, I was spending time with God one time, and he was talking to me about how he is a creator, but that we also are all creators, that we're all creative, and that part of our creating and creativity is, aspects of our, his divine nature in us. And he was just kind of showing me how, even though I don't create personally, at least very much in terms of actual art or music or the types of things we tend to think of as creative outlets, or gardening even, which is something I ideally would love to do but don't.
There's so many weeds outside. If you want to come out there, I can show you around.
I want to grow vegetables and flowers. I don't want
kind of gardening, yeah.
Tend to weeds, which is part of why I don't do real gardening.
Yep. We have a story on that. We'll do that
maybe another day.
Another day.
Tell about that. But anyway, that my children are kind of my garden, and they're the plants I'm growing up, and that is, I don't know, just to allow there to be creativity flowing and art, in the much bigger sense of the word art, right? Yeah. So that we're cultivating life and creativity here in our home.
Is there a vegetable or fruit that comes to mind when you think of one of our kids in light of growing them up from this garden?
No, but there's definitely weeds I have to...
Weeds, we need to tend
I definitely have to tend to the weeds so they don't get choked out.
Okay, so let me just jump into this with you, why do we homeschool, sweetheart?
Okay, well, first you should start with the first question on the page.
Okay, my wife put out a few questions. Clearly she's the teacher, so I'm stepping into the principal's office. What exactly...
is homeschooling?
Yeah, it says in homeschooling.
I wanted to just start with that because I know we have international listeners and people that maybe have never even heard of homeschooling or don't really understand what that is. So, it sort of is obvious in the word, but I think that it can be such a foreign concept and idea.
Yeah, let me break it down as the principal here. It's school that happens in your home.
Thank you.
How was that?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
That's a great definition.
Thank you. Can I move on to number 2?
No, I think there's more we're saying
All right,
for that.
Go ahead.
And you're free to jump in, but I think it's what is homeschooling is that we're taking as parents. This probably does also get into why a little bit, but it's kind of taking the God-given right as a parent to help shape and educate your children and seeing that as primarily the role of the parent rather than the state. And so even though we employ the use of other groups and other people and, curriculum and stuff like that. Homeschooling is really kind of saying, you know what, I'm going to take back the primary shaping role and educating role. And instead of just leaving that to teachers in the classroom and that changing from year to year and me sort of sitting on the sidelines and trying to advocate for my child in an environment where I don't really have much involvement at the end of the day, I'm gonna really take responsibility to be the primary educator for my child, and just knowing that it's our job before God to really help shape that child and help decide what's best for each child, and to own that responsibility.
Yep. And if anyone's wondering, you're probably not, we absolutely love homeschooling. Different reasons, because I think I'm in awe of Holly's ability to do what she does throughout the day, from just making the meals, that in itself, when you're feeding a small army, to actually raising children and then homeschooling them, along with many other things concerning being a pastor's wife. And anyway, you just juggle a lot of things. So I think when I think of homeschool, I'm like, wow, you're incredible that you are doing this. But for Holly, it's a total joy, and I don't want to speak for you. And I would say for myself too, I just love that our children are so close to us. And in these impressionable years, I would say they're always impressionable at some level, but these formative years, it is so remarkable to have them so near and to be able to interact with them throughout the day, be able to hear what they're learning, to have the ability to put before them what you want them to learn. So why don't you just go into this? I know I'm kind of already moving us, but why do you homeschool? Why did you choose that route? Because without us getting too long-winded in this podcast, Holly was on board way before me. I was always like, no offense out there, but I didn't want those weird homeschool kids. And I felt that. And I was like, no way, we are putting them into public school. And what's so good, as I know some of you guys, aren't believers, or, don't have the same faith we do, but we make our decisions by faith, meaning we listen to God, we pray, we believe that He not only hears, but speaks, that there's interaction, and He confirms things multiple ways. And so that took a little while for me to get on board, and Holly did exceptional with putting no pressure on me except just pray. And I know she was praying probably hard that I would come on this team. But He's so faithful to put us in the same, it takes us a little while sometimes, but He usually, we find the middle ground, or the same ground, I should say. And that's what it was with homeschool. I remember telling Holly I'm on board in Starbucks, and she got teary-eyed, if not started crying, and she's not very emotional, so that was it's just a really impactful moment. It was a really sweet time of us coming into full agreement that this was the route we were going to go. Mm-hmm. So, why?
So, I think our simple answer that we both would have the same, and our most important answer is we homeschool because we feel like God's called us to do that. And, even though we're huge, huge fans of it and have many close friends that homeschool, we also recognize it's not everyone's calling, and a lot of people don't even have the capability of that because both parents are working full-time or part-time, or
that's good.
Different things like that. But we do believe God's called us to it. I think that we highly value just having our children with us and keeping relationship with them as a really primary goal in our lives, and not sending them off to be away from us and, in a sense, raised by someone else 8 hours a day, and then we kind of get their worst part of the day where they're tired and just dealing with dinner and bedtime sort of thing. So doing life together is a huge thing. I think a real brief version of part of my journey was Jason and I both went to public school, so that was kind of what we knew. And, many times what you know is what you're just going to keep doing and walk in. And so I think we both originally did have more of that lens that we would
I definitely did
put our kids in public school. I'd had some homeschooled friends growing up, and also a lot of friends in private school. So I was open to everything, but I still was, at the end of the day, if someone had asked when we first had one or two little kids, I was probably leaning more towards public school. But anyway, I was at kinder music, just like a little mom and toddler type thing with Samuel, our oldest, when he was probably only 3. And, it's a handful of moms with their kids. And, here I'm working so hard at home to just teach Samuel and teach him to listen and be polite and to be considerate of others. And, just lots of things you're trying to teach a little toddler how to do. And in this little kinder music class, there was a very ornery, unruly boy. And Samuel just started, doing all these things that were super out of character for him as he watched this other little boy do these things. And I was sitting right there, and I was trying to pull him back into the group because the other boy was running crazy and around the group in circles, being all loud. And so I was trying to pull Samuel back in, and I don't know, something kind of hit me, like, here I am here with this child, and already I'm seeing this peer of his, like, pulling away the influence that I'm having as his mom and undoing a lot of the work that I'm pouring in and day out at home. And I'm sure many people would, like, make a great case for how that's poor reasoning or not really true or things like that. But, I just something sort of hit me in that moment of, like, wow, I don't know if I really want to just, release my kids to be away from me all day and influenced by a bunch of other kids that I don't even know, and I have no ability to know what's going on or what type of influence they're having. And it was cool because I didn't ever I knew better than to homeschool out of fear. I think when we were growing up, a lot of people homeschooled out of fear. It was a much more fringe movement. Not to say everyone was, but, I think that there was kind of more of that isolationist mentality. Whereas now homeschooling is a huge movement. It's in some ways more mainstream, even though it's still a small...
Especially in California, too. It's on the rise.
Yeah, but all over. It's really all over.
Yes. And we just want to say, for those out there, we're not saying this is for everyone. We're just saying this is our route, and why we're talking about this is because we've received so many questions over the years concerning it. And I know some of our listeners are probably wanting some of the nitty gritty and kind of the keys on how to do homeschool successful. I don't think this is that podcast on giving away
maybe we'll do another one. But
nuggets.
Yeah.
But let's just to keep it moving here. What are some of the things you love about homeschool?
What are some of the things you love about homeschooling?
Oh, wow. You're just trying to write back on me. How about that? I have a real simple one is knowing, well, two things. One is you're remarkable, Holly. You really are. Like, you are just the real deal on so many levels. And to know that my children are being educated, not only, in an environment where there's God here, the love of God's here in our family and in our home, but then also you're very you're an academic in some ways. I don't know if that's the best terminology, but you have a real value for education. And so I know they're not getting some watered down education, that they're really being challenged. And I see them all the time, even just this week, right? Hope had to do, how do you even explain what she did? It was insane. I was like, please, I never want to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, real quick, let me say another why we homeschool related to what you're saying, which is there's so many reasons, and I'll share a few things more specifically in terms of the things I love about homeschooling. But another reason why we homeschool is because I do believe it is one of the best ways to educate your children well in this day and age.
And that's what I love about it too.
Yeah. So what Hope did was we do something called classical conversations. It is, this will hopefully ease some of your fears, those of you who are still so concerned about, how do you, get your children socialized and stuff like that, which
clearly our JoJo fans out there and now Hope fans and others know that our kids are very socialized.
Yeah, a little too socialized sometimes. In general, what most people actually see with homeschooling kids is that they're much more well adapted socially because they're used to being around kids of all ages. They're used to being around adults. They're not, when you really think about how natural is it to be around only kids your same age all day long with this one teacher, like there's no other place that's real life. That's only in the school system. And so in homeschooling, your kids are being trained up and raised in real life context constantly, and that includes relationally and socially. But also in this day and age, and certainly where we live, you're almost like socialization is absolutely never a problem because you almost have to be careful to not do too much socially and actually stay home and do some school because there's so many opportunities to be with other kids and other homeschool families and so many different outside classes and groups. And our kids do like a PE class once a week through this organization. But anyway, Classical Conversations, we meet together once a week. It's a national, even in some ways international group and community, and it gives us a lot of our structure that we use for homeschooling. But anyway, so Hope was working recently on her own initiative to become something called Memory Masters, where she essentially memorized, I don't have the exact number, but it's well over 100 pieces of information, probably like several hundred pieces of information.
Yes.
Completely by memory, like all 50 states with the capitals where she can point them out on a map and tell you exactly what they all are, and a large number of features, everything from a bunch of the main mountain ranges and rivers in America, because we did U.S. Our cycle this year was U.S. history, U.S. geography. She memorized a bunch of Latin stuff, just tons and tons of stuff, and it was really, really amazing to watch her just press in and go after that and all the things that
she had to get it perfect. She couldn't
yes,
even
100%
miss
perfect.
one.
Yeah.
With 4 different instructors at different times.
7 subjects. It was Latin,
anyway,
English, grammar.
We're proud of our daughter. And Hope's in what grade? I don't even know what grade.
She's in 5th grade.
That's okay. I would have guessed 5th because she's 11.
That's good.
Thank you, the principal. All right, so back to what do I love?
Yes, you love the education.
I do. I love the education. And then, most of you guys know this by now, but I am a full-time pastor. And without getting into any of those details, pastors have very unique lives in how much they're intersecting so many people's lives. Their schedules are not always predictable due to things going on. And so
you have busy weekends.
Yes. And so to know that, hey, at a 4 o'clock, I'm swinging in, or even a 11 a.m., and I can take one of the kids to Home Depot on an errand or to the bank with me, or pull them out for a date. I mean, it's not like I do these things all the time, but I do them. And that to me is just like so invaluable. I mean, that means everything to me to know, again, that my kids are so accessible and that I'm able to connect with them. I mean, I'm walking through the home at different times, even if I'm coming home just to quickly use the restroom or grab something or get a water or grab a book. Throw a hug on them, like even bring fatherly, instruction like I did today. You were connecting with someone and I got all the kids moving on their chores, and so it's just so cool that I don't know, just being a dad and being a parent and knowing that my kids are in this home at all times, or not all the time, but often. I'm so thankful for the access to their little hearts. And again, these years are so quick. I don't need to tell parents who are listening to this who already have older kids, but man, what's that saying? The days are long, but the years are short. Man, that is the truth. Say it one more time.
The days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah, it's just like Samuel's already 13, potentially he's got, 5 more years with us? Who knows? And so, yeah, I just love that my kids are present and that I can be present for them when I'm coming in and out of the house.
Yeah, and we're able to teach them so much more than just academics. Our kids, especially our older ones, because of having obviously younger brothers and sisters, they have learned a huge skill set just there alone. Like they're going to make great babysitters. They're going to make great parents one day. They know how to be patient with people. They know how, like I said, to interact with people of all ages.
Yeah, JoJo's convinced she's going to rock this mom thing.
We're able to teach them responsibility. We're able to teach them chores.
Yep.
Things. In fact, I love reading. I was reading in some book recently just about how much farther kids get in life that grow up with, emotional intelligence or the ability to persevere or to work hard so much more than they do just for, job training type of stuff or the types of things that we usually learn in our traditional schooling and stuff. So it just produces a much more well-rounded child oftentimes. And so it's so fun to just get to teach them about life and about a lot more things than just math and science. Although I love that side of it too. So,
all right. So just keeping it brief here, just for time's sake, what are at least one thing, maybe even two things that you really love about homeschooling? And I know you've already been touching on.
Yeah, I want to write a book on like 101 or 1,001 reasons to homeschool. I'm not sure how high I can get, but anyway, So yes, I have touched on some. One of the things is, I love instilling a love for learning, and I love the ability to be able to meet our kids where they're at. So, I remember in school and just thinking about kids in general, how they are. It's like every kid has strengths and every kid has weaknesses. Every person has strengths and weaknesses, right? And we tend to learn at different paces, even from subject to subject, especially with younger kids, right? Some kids are ready to read at 4 and other kids aren't ready to read till they're 7. Well, in school, that discrepancy causes people to feel like I'm smart, I'm dumb, and create kind of this whole divide when the reality is it's not that somebody's smarter or dumber than others necessarily. It's just different strengths and different gifts. Well, we've really walked through this, and this could be a whole podcast maybe sometime with our oldest, Samuel. He has pretty profound dyslexia, and, that was an interesting journey to really discover and how we've walked that out. But one of the really, really amazing things about it, and one reason I'm so thankful God called us to homeschool, is that he has never had to deal with one of the biggest issues that most kids with dyslexia have to deal with, which is feeling dumb and, kind of all the trauma and social stigmatism that comes with that.
That he has it.
Yeah,
in the sense of how he comes across.
Right. He's super gifted and brilliant in his own ways. And it's so neat to see that he still has confidence and he knows that he's a smart kid. He knows he has a struggle. He knows that reading and spelling and stuff like that are really hard. But homeschooling has allowed us to also give him a lot of the remediation he's needed to really go after that and give him the help he's needed, as well as accommodating for him so he wasn't stuck and not being able to progress because he couldn't read until he was actually about in 4th grade. And so he would have had to go through a very, I think, traumatic emotional experience had he been in school and felt really dumb. And then he also would have been really hindered, whereas we've been able to do so many things. He listens to audiobooks constantly. He reads.
He doesn't listen. He consumes.
He reads and quotes really high level literature and books because he's able to listen to them, and he's a very strong auditory learner.
Yeah, I mean,
so incredible. Really, all that to say, whether you have a child that really needs a very special type of accommodation, or you just have children with different strengths, which we all do, you're able to really accommodate for that. If you have a child that just absolutely loves science, you're able to let them spend a lot of extra time on science. And one of ours, he's kind of more of an engineering type kid, so he is just
definitely just took apart the bike,
right? And that's kind of in a sense school. And of course, he still has to be reined in and get him to do his math and his reading and spelling and science and all those basic things. But some days, on almost his own initiative, he is out there doing science experiments, studying about this type of stuff, and he loves it. And I love that we can facilitate that in homeschooling and try as much as possible to cultivate that love of learning and not make school just this thing that everyone hates.
Academy, right?
Yes, exactly. Creative Life Academy, where we're building life.
I'm going to ask you to start landing the plane, only because we're approaching the 30-minute mark. And so I know there's a lot more you can touch on loving. Holly, literally, when she says about a book, that's the truth. If you don't know, she already has one book out called Mom Grace, and we're going to use other podcasts for her to kind of speak into some of those chapters. But today is homeschool, and it's one of Holly's main passion, along with Jesus, healthy eating. Is that a good way to say it? Healthy eating? Okay. Yeah. And homeschool. And so this last question, and I'm just going to let you go for it. I'm not even going to say anything unless I really need to, but challenges. What have been some of the challenges you've had to face with homeschooling the kids?
Yes, and I wanted to put that question in there because I think it's only fair to be real and say, of course, it's not a walk in the park. As much as I love homeschooling and love having our children around and love teaching them and all that we get to do together with that. Of course, it's not easy. And I think, every family I've noticed has their own set of challenges, and a lot of that depends on the personalities of the family, of the kids, of the mom, that sort of thing. Some homeschool families actually have a challenge to, not stress out and let their kids still be kids and have fun. And that's what a lot of people have to go around encouraging one another in. I'm pretty good at that for the most part. So I think my challenge or our challenge as a family is just, probably more with 6 kids of all these different ages and very, very different personalities and learning styles.
Our oldest is 13 and our youngest is about 18 months.
Right. So just being able to have the structure we need and the focus and dealing with, probably more behavior problems with some of the kids that would rather run off and play than do their work or their school. So you're having to really rein that in. Whereas, there's days where I think every homeschool mom is kind of feeling like, yeah, it would be nice to send that kid to school now, and kind of get a break or have somebody else have to deal with them for a while.
I felt like that a few times as a homeschool principal.
Yeah. Yes. But I think at the end of the day, just even with that challenge coming back to, there was one child in particular that's been particularly challenging in a lot of areas, but it's been hard to get them to do their school and just kind of do what they're supposed to be doing. And, I had to have a real heart-to-heart talk with this child and, just even considering, do I need to send them somewhere else? Because I can't neglect or just let them not do school. You can't, obviously, I have responsibility to educate this child, and fortunately they are getting still a really good education, and he knows and is very capable, if not ahead, for where he should be at in a lot of areas, but I want him to have the discipline he needs to do what he's supposed to be doing and just, rein that in and everything. But when I thought about, sending him away somewhere, I actually did start crying and just feeling how much I would miss him and feeling how much I think he would start to feel isolated from our family and isolated from us. And
definitely.
And then just, finally had to be like, we can't do this if we don't feel like God's saying to do this. We can't do this just because you can't get your act together. And it was neat to see him, I think, kind of see that a little more and see my heart, that my heart is for him and I'm not just trying to make his life miserable all the time. And he kind of took some ownership. And I can't say, obviously, it's been, a walk in the park since then. But, just realizing this is part of my calling is to embrace this challenge of just living day in and day out with my kids and walking them through
I think that's
this
the
process.
hardest challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
But loving them in that and how much that speaks volumes to them when they see, hey, I'm being hard for mom right now and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but wow, she's still loving me even in this place, and she's still trying to, kindly discipline me and call me to something higher, and what that's developing in them.
Yeah. That was good, Hollis. Can I completely land this thing?
Yes.
Okay.
You can land it.
And I found it very interesting because we weren't sure what we were going to talk about tonight. We landed on homeschool, but we prop up this microphone and it's on the complete book of grammar and punctuation.
It's actually on a whole stack of homeschool books.
Yes, so we are definitely in the right
grammar.
lane
We've got
tonight.
we've got a history book. We've got a math book.
All right, so hopefully somebody, or many of you maybe, were encouraged by our journey into homeschool. And please, if you have any questions, just throw them down in the comment, and we'll try to get to some of them. All right, everyone, have a great day. Take care.
Bye.